So let's talk a little bit about the shame and the guilt we are all experiencing in our horsemanship journey. As I said in my last post, there are a lot of people that are changing, that are choosing a different path into horsemanship. And sometimes, or maybe all of the time, it comes with the reflection of what we did in the past and with some shame and guilt about it, especially the guilt about how we handled horses and how they might have felt in our presence, in our training, and that we feel sorry that we did that. And sometimes this shame and this guilt can go over into fear, into not being able to have a vision or hold an image of how we want to act in the future because it's all so new, right? You're not really comfortable where you are now. You're not comfortable with where you want to go. Like there's also a lack of knowledge and a lack of skill set, maybe, to be certain, to be assertive in the way you want to handle horses now. This can also create some fear if you don't know where you're going and you don't know what's the right, but you only know what was in the past and that this was wrong. So you made the decision, okay, the way I punished my horse in the past might be wrong. It might not be good for my horse. There comes negativity, and then you don't know how to go further to approach this, and then comes fear, and all of a sudden you get stuck. To get unstuck with this feeling of change, with this feeling of guilt, there are some internal processes we have to run through. So I recommend you also go and watch the video about fear in horsemanship, because this is kind of the first step. And I want to take you a little bit further now into really realizing where you come from and what that means for your journey, and how you can let go some parts to make some steps into the future, into a kinder horsemanship and into a better horse world. So first of all, let me say I've been there and I've done things I'm not proud of, and I've handled horses a certain way, even though very early in my horsemanship journey, I realized that there are ways I do not want to participate in. So when I started my horsemanship journey when I was around 15 years old, and I had an alternative approach to it already. Didn't start with riding lessons in a riding school like the usual kid my age. My family did not support me, whether with money or with like real support to find riding schools, to find opportunities to ride. So I kind of came into it from the other side. I worked for several barns and I got my lessons somewhere there. And I pretty early started working with private owners and their horses. And I had the luck to get to the right ones where the horses were taught by natural horsemanship in a kind of way. And there the journey started and so on. But of course, I worked at riding schools, I worked at barns, and the way they teach, train, and approach their horses is not always that friendly and has some visions that I do not want to participate even then. But because of the situation where I had to work for them and I earned money, I kind of ran over my own thoughts, my own ideas, and I just did what was asked instead of sticking to my vision and standing up for the horses. So there are also moments in my past where I felt shame and guilt about it. And even now, let's be honest, I have a horse and I have to get him through situations he might not like, or there are days where I'm not really myself and I just want to get through with it. And then I maybe act in a way that I do not like at the end of the day, or even in that moment. I did something out of a reaction to him or to the situation, and then immediately I feel shame and guilt about that I did that. Because it's also in my patterns, I'm also just a human and I've done things in the past, and sometimes I don't know what to do, and then I maybe make the wrong choice. That happens. Even then, it's important to realize that first of all, the horses don't hold grudges. And of course, they can get traumatized and react the next time in a certain way because I made an experience and learned something from it. But it's not the concept of holding grudges like we have. And I have to say, personally, I don't have that in my life as well. And I'm really aware about that. So I'm really actively participating in trying not to hold grudges, in trying not to stay in this negative feeling towards a person or towards an animal when something bad happened. So your horse does not have that. He does not sees you or judges you as a bad person because he did something wrong. So this is the part that is about the horse and you, about your relationship. But the most important part is for you to understand that the relationship you have now with your horse, where you might act in certain ways you don't like anymore, or you maybe have the feeling you have to handle your horse in a certain way because of his behaviors or her behaviors, and because of the patterns you two created. So you're both stuck in these patterns. So this relationship you have now is a result of the choices you made in the past. So these are already done. It's done. You paid for it. And the present now is just a reflection of your choices then. So if you choose now differently, if you choose now to handle your horse differently, to approach him differently, choose not to punish, choose to correct in another way, your relationship in the future will change. It's inevitable. It will change. So you really have to understand this concept of where you are now. You can choose differently in this moment and the outcome will be differently. So if you're not happy with the way you react with your horse, the way you handle your horse now, and you feel stuck because you're so focused on the past and the guilt and the shame of everything you did up until this point, it's so helpful to close this chapter, to close the book, to put a lid on it and say, okay, this is done. And from now on, we're going to go in a different direction. And maybe, and probably, there will be situations where you will fall back into your old patterns and you will fall back into your own behavior chains you created. And as well will your horse. Your horse will fall back into patterns and will fall back into these behavior patterns that create the action reaction you two have. Nevertheless, every moment of that, you have the choice of letting that go and choosing differently. So every moment it's done. And every choice you make in the immediate future will have an effect on the relationship in the long run. With this concept in mind, I hope you realize that guilt and shame, I don't want to say has no place in the relationship, because it has. It has a place in your awareness and it has a place in your heart. If you struggle with it, it's not to be ignored. It's not to be pushed away. Feel it, acknowledge it, and let it go. But guilt and shame will not determine your relationship in the future if you're ready to let go and make a different choice now. So if you really want to change your relationship with your horse, you really want to change your approach to behavior of your horse, take this concept, embody it, feel it, make it your truth, go a step further, face your fears, work through your fears, and get the knowledge you need. Get the knowledge to understand your horse, and with the understanding of your horse, you will develop new skill sets, you will develop a new way of thinking, and a new way of thinking will change your behavior towards your horse. And as I just said, if you choose now differently, if you behave now differently, it will have fruits in the future. So if you really want to get started on this journey with your horse, I just encourage you to go and dive deep in. And if you need any help, I'm here. I have some courses up now. I have the webinar and I'm on podcasts. I'm on Instagram. You can follow me there. I try to share daily valuable information. And if you have any question, you can contact me anytime. You can check out my website. There's also a contact page and a page for online consulting. I hope you feel a little bit better now about your shame and your guilt and about your personal development in horsemanship. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. And I hope to see you in the next video.